Hello students, welcome back to my channel. This is Continue Learning Structured Query Language. In the previous session, we had learned about commit commands and data control language. In today's session, we will be seeing certain built-in functions. We'll be just seeing the details of them. In the next session, we will see in detail each and one of those functions with example. All right, so let us start. So SQL built-in function. So what do you understand by a built-in function is nothing but such certain functions which are given by the SQL, which is built-in, and we can use them any of the purpose if at all we require to do so, isn't it? So there are two types of functions in Oracle SQL version, okay, which is single row function as well as group functions. So suppose I'm having a table, I can apply these built-in function either row-wise or I can group them. Okay, so row-wise is called as a single row functions where it will be applied to each and every row. I can retrieve a certain data from the row, or else I'm grouping the tuples, and then if I'm taking out the data, then it is called as a group function. All right, so single row scalar functions return a value for every row that is processed in a query, and group functions group the rows of data based on the values returned by the query. Okay, so let us see what exactly these mean. So when I talk about the row, there are four types of single row functions. Okay, the very first one is numeric functions. What is this numeric functions? These are functions that accept numeric input and return a numeric value. Okay, so it's all about numeric functions where we will see what is the different kinds of numerical value we are expected to do so. For example, absolute value of x. Suppose we have certain value x. X is any kind of any attribute we are taking. Suppose it is a absolute value of a certain row where we are taking the row. From the row, we are taking an attribute value of 1. For example, if I'm taking x value is 1, so absolute value of 1, if I'm returning, it will return 1. And absolute value, if at all I take -1, it will return -1. So whatever the absolute value of that particular x is called as absolute. Similarly, if it was ceiling value, ceil is also another function, which is your numeric function, ceiling of x. Suppose I have 2.3, then this will return 3. Okay, it will take a ceiling value. Suppose I have 2.9, still it will take 3. So this is nothing but your ceiling value. Next, we have character or text function. So what does this character or text function means? So these are the functions that accept character input and can return both character and number values. So here we are taking numeric value as an input. So here we are going to take accept character as an input. For example, lower. Lower is one of the function, built-in function. For example, lower of, if at all I'm giving certain string value. For example, SQL. If I'm writing it in capital SQL, okay, this is going to return, it is going to return all this entire value written in a lowercase. Similarly, we have upper, initial cap, trim, trim, etc. So we will see them in the next session. As of now, this is just an introduction. Next, we have date functions. So what does this date function does? These are the functions that take values that are data type date. Okay, so data type date we have already seen in the previous classes. So as input and returns the value of data type date, except for months between functions, which returns a number. Months between number is nothing but, for example, if I'm giving July and August, so months between that will be 1, isn't it? So it except months between will return the number, wherein which other things it will return, date function will return few of values. Okay. For example, if I have to say add months is one of the built-in functions, okay? And if I'm giving date and n as a value, it returns a date value after adding n months to the date x, okay? For example, if a date was certain date, for example, let me take date as 1st July. And if I'm adding 2 to this, then it is going to add 2, that is July, August, September. It is going to return me to September. Okay, so it is returning a date as a output. That is why we will call it as a date function. Next, we have conversion functions. So what is this conversion functions? These are the functions that help us to convert a value in one form to another form, as the name says, converting. Okay. For example, we have here NVL to character, to number, to date. What happens to in to number? We are going to convert a given value into a number. What happens in to character? For example, to character, if I'm giving X and I'm saying Y. Okay, this is the syntax. It converts a numeric and date value to a character string value. It cannot be used for calculation since it is a string value. Okay, so we are going to convert that into a character. So that we will see in detail. And then we can combine more than one of the functions. So these functions, all these 4 functions, whatever we have seen, we can convert them, we can combine them all, and also we can use in a structured way in a SQL query when we are writing, and we can get the required outcome of this. Okay, so these are the different row related. Okay, as I told you, this is a row related queries or built-in functions. So what about SQL group functions? So SQL group functions are these, that is your count, max, min, average, sum, and listings. And all these have been discussed previously in a very detailed way in the previous session. So kindly go through those. Okay, so what happens in count? In a count, if at all I'm having a table, I'm going to count the entire tuple. Maximum, I'm going to find the maximum in the, I'm going to combine the entire rows and then find the maximum. Again, minimum, I'm going to group the all the tuple and then find the minimum, and average also same, sum, distinct. So here what we are trying to do is we are going to group all the values together, all the tuples together, and then try to find the value. That is the reason this is called as a group function, and this we have discussed already. So I'm not going to go in detail. So these are the 2 types of built-in functions, group functions as well as row functions. Apart from this, we also have something called as a dual table. I want to discuss it in this session itself because it's a very small topic. So what is this dual table in Oracle? So it is a single row and single column dummy table. All right. You can say that it is a dummy table which has a single row and single column provided by Oracle. Why it is required? It is used to perform mathematical calculation without using a table. For example, you want to find out 2 into 2, okay, in Oracle, but you do not have a calculator and you do not want to use any of the other table. Of course, you cannot use any other table to perform 2 into 2. In that case, you can easily use a dual table using this syntax. For example, select 2 into 2 from dual. When you say, it will give me 2 into 2 and what is the answer of that. All right. Similarly, select star from dual. If you do, what will happen? It will give you just X. So it is just a, doesn't have anything. It is just a dummy. Table name will be given as dummy and it will give a value like this. So you can use this particular dual table for any of the calculation if at all you want to do. Easily you can use it. That's the reason I want to tell this. You can try this also in your system. Try selecting from a dual and try performing certain calculation and see how what will be the output. So here it is going to calculate for you and it will give you the result. So this is your dual table. So that's all in today's session. Next session, I will be discussing the row operations, that is your row built-in functions in detail. So we will see all of them one by one with the help of an example. And that is going to be our last video of this particular chapter. So thank you for watching, students. Keep learning.